Welcome back to our devotions that we offer every Thursday night. Pastor Matthew, good to be with you all this evening. I thought today I'd share a little bit about how Scripture reinvents itself in my life and maybe in yours as well. We've been studying in the pastor's book study this book, Short Stories by Jesus, by Amy Jill Levine. She's a Jewish New Testament scholar. And so as we read this book, we're bumping into a different way to hear some of these stories that Jesus preached and spoke so long ago, and that we've inherited in so many different ways. They're stories that many of the participants have shared they taught on flannel boards years ago, or maybe that they know so well that they know the punchline, they know how it ends. But as we read this book, Dr. Levine is helping us really reimagine how Jesus first might have preached these stories. The people gathered around listening to Jesus, how might they have heard these stories in their communities and in their world? And it just reminds me how Scripture can kind of always be moving and living and breathing. Some of these stories we've heard so many times that they start to lose a little bit of the teeth. The thing that grabs us, that draws us in, that kind of challenges us to live differently or see the world differently. In fact, one of the images that we often use for Scripture is it's like this rock. That's the rock that the whole church is built on, perhaps. It's this stone that's unmoved. The chapel at Luther Seminary that I did my preaching, my very first preaching in, had this giant rock pulpit, just so big that you stand on it, and it's intimidating to even the preacher to stand upon. But we sometimes think of Scripture as a rock, but I wonder if perhaps a better image for Scripture is that of a diamond. It's polished, it's cut in ways that reflect the light in different spaces and ways. Recently, we took my wife Hannah's engagement ring, her wedding ring, to be cleaned and cared for, and we both looked at it when they were finished at a local jeweler here in Eden Prairie, and it was amazing how we could see different things in this diamond than we'd ever seen before. Scripture is kind of like that we come back to it again and again and again, and somehow each time it reflects something different about who we are, about the world around us. So if Scripture has become something stagnant for you, something that you're stuck by, that you bump up against, I wonder if perhaps there might be some freedom, some life, some new ways to interact with this book of ours by thinking about how it might change in various parts of our lives, how the words might interact with us in different ways. It's a much more creative, a much more imaginative way of reading the Bible. I think that's the way that Jesus taught this book. It's the way that he taught his parables, in a way that invited us into the story. So this week, find your favorite Bible story. Maybe it's Jonah, one of my favorites. Read it straight through, cover to cover. Maybe it's one of the parables of Jesus. It won't take you that long. And then see if you can find a new detail. Wonder about it. Dream into it. Ask a question. Invite a friend to think about it with you. And may this book open up in you some new inspiration for living your faith in daily life. We'll see you next time.